After 24 years of only buying Apple products, I finally built my first custom PC. So many doors were opened, no limits with 3D development, playing any game I want,
It's probably best if we split up.
and exploring the unhinged world of VR chat.
I am Iron Man.
I don't know what I'm saying is that I was Dora the Explorer for Halloween last year.
That's hot.
When the M1 MacBook Pro and Max came out, I decided it was time to replace my 13-inch MacBook Pro I've had for years, so I dropped $3,700 like it was nothing. I was deep in the Apple fan club. I thought I'd finally be able to game on it. Let's just say crossover is overrated, you cannot game on a MacBook Pro, and software like Unity and Unreal Engine aren't fully optimized. After being endlessly frustrated dealing with limitations for around a year, I decided to build a PC. We are finally here. I'm going to be building my first PC ever in the Lee 011 Dynamic Evo. Why can't I say that? I wanted to build an absolute beast that I could do everything on, but I only had a budget of $2,500. I wanted it as close to an all-white build as I could get, so I hopped on PC Part Picker, and then for about 2 months I waited and scooped up parts here and there when things were on sale. Finding a reasonably priced GPU was the hardest part, and because I have no patience, I started the build without one, which caused some problems later. Well, that doesn't seem good. As I build, I'll have a counter on screen so we can see how well I stick to my budget, and you can find all the product links in the description. For the motherboard, I picked up the Asus Prime X570 Pro for $246. This came in a bundle, so I was able to save around $50. This is a beautiful motherboard and has white I/O, so it fits in well with the rest of the build. After the motherboard was prepped, I installed the CPU. I went with a Ryzen 9 5900X that I got off of Amazon for $350. I was pretty nervous installing this since it was my first time, so I was very careful to install it in the right orientation and not put too much pressure on it. After the CPU was in place, I installed the RAM. I picked up a 32GB kit of V-Color Prism Pro DDR4 RAM running at 3600 MHz for $117. And made sure to place the 2 sticks in the second and fourth slot to ensure they would work properly. Next, onto the storage. I got a Samsung 980 Pro 1TB SSD for $110, which came in the bundle with the motherboard. I originally installed it in this slot, but later I moved it to below the PCIe slots with the heatsink on top of it. After the 980 Pro was installed, I moved the motherboard to the side and started working with the CPU cooler. I picked up a white Lee Galahad all-in-one CPU cooler for $179. It's the 120mm version, so that means there's 3 fans in the radiator and will fill up the entire top panel of the PC case. After unboxing everything in the package, I started prepping the cooler to attach to the CPU on the motherboard, making sure that I selected the right attachment part indicated in the manual. Now it was time to take apart the case and install the motherboard. For this build, I'm using a Lee 011 Dynamic Evo in white, which I got off of Amazon for $179. I took the top and side panels off, which was really easy to do with this case, and then put the case on its back so I can install the motherboard. Then all I needed to do was drop in the motherboard, line it up with the standoffs, and then secure it. Next, I'll be installing the CPU cooler. First, I have to attach the fans to the radiator, making sure that the fans were in the right orientation and the cable would end up in a good spot to manage it. Then I had to attach the cooler to the case. I had to remove part of the case on the top, secure the cooler to that part, and then secure the part to the top of the case. Next, I had to install the cooler head to lay on top of the CPU. First, I applied thermal paste to the CPU. I hope that wasn't too much. Then I removed this protective plastic, and then I realized I had the wrong attachment part on the cooler, so I swapped it for the right one. And then I could finally apply a little pressure and screw in the attachment screws. Now it's time for the extra fans. Since the top 3 fans for the CPU cooler are exhaust, I got 4 more fans for intake. 3 of the fans are the same Lee Uni fans that come with the Galahad AIO. I got them off of Amazon for $80. I repeated the same process connecting them together, this time making sure that they were oriented for intake, and secured them to the back panel of the case. The one extra fan I got is a cheap one. It's the Arctic P12 PWM, which I got for $10 off of Amazon. Now this is the point where things started to go wrong. For the power supply, I bought an 850 watt titanium rated power supply for $170, assuming that this would be enough for the graphics card I would get, so I installed the power supply and spent some time managing all the cables, and then clicked the power button, but the lights weren't turning on. Well, that doesn't seem good. Okay, it's not doing anything. After freaking out for a bit, I noticed that it did turn on if I clicked the power button on the motherboard. Man, I was so happy to see those lights. Oh my gosh. Turns out I just didn't plug in the one cable that connects the motherboard to the case's power button.
Yes! I have to call Kian.
Next, I had to install a U-bit Wi-Fi card that I got for $35 off of Amazon because the motherboard didn't come with built-in Wi-Fi. And for the GPU, I finally found a 3080 Ti on sale on Amazon for $800. And it said it was arriving by 10 p.m. tomorrow, but the next day, it never came. And then the status went back to order received. We will email you when we have an estimated delivery date. So I started looking for other GPU deals and came across an EVGA 3090 Ti for $1,100, which is like $1,000 off. But I would need a 1000 watt power supply. So I canceled the 3080 Ti, returned the 850 watt power supply, and then drove to Micro Center to buy the 3090 Ti for $1,100.
As well as an EVGA 1000 watt power supply.
Once I got back, I swapped out the 850 watt power supply with the 1000 watt power supply. Finally, it was time to install the 3090 Ti. This graphics card is massive. I was sad to see that there won't be any EVGA 40 series cards because I love EVGA. Installing the graphics card was very easy since I wasn't doing anything fancy like vertical mounting, and once it was in, I could see if the PC would actually boot up. And thankfully it did. Then I installed Windows and bought an activation key for $15 off of mycdkey.com, and after hours of work, I could finally use it. Actually, I forgot one more thing. Alright, so the build is finally complete, and I can't wait to show you guys. I got it all set up with my setup, I got my monitors hooked up, everything's going smoothly, and I've just been testing it out and just having a great time with the PC. Hey there. What are you doing held up in your room when you could be out here in nature? You've been building that PC for like 20 hours in a windowless basement room. Come outside. You need to experience nature, my friend. You need to be out here with me. Come join me. I absolutely loved how it looked, and only went over my original budget by $80. But one of my favorite things about owning a PC is the upgradability. So after using the PC for about 4 months, I decided to upgrade it a bit. I got another 32GB RAM kit for $104 to bring it up to 64GB. If I wanted 64GB in my MacBook, I'd have to spend another $4,000. I also got another Samsung 980 Pro SSD, this time a 2TB one with a heatsink for $180 to bring the storage up to 3TB, and then a couple more things to improve the aesthetics, but I ran into some more issues. I got 3 more Lee & Lee Unifans for intake on the bottom for $102, a white Lee & Lee 24-pin Strimer cable for $68 to replace the ugly black PSU cable, a pack of white extension cables for the 4+4 pin for $36, and a white 16-pin adapter for my 3090 Ti for $21. The Lee & Lee fans were the V2s, and the ones I already have in the case are V1s, so when I hooked them up, they weren't being picked up in the L3 Connect software. Apparently you can't mix V1 and V2 controllers, and the Strimer cable literally just came broken. So I returned these 2 products, took a trip to Micro Center, and decided to replace the one cheap side fan as well. So I got 4 Lee & Lee SL120 V1 fans, not V2s, for $111, and a new Strimer cable for $70. Now that everything was working perfectly, I turned around the PC and tackled the cable management. I never put a lot of time into managing these cables until now, but decided to take a crack at improving the organization with cable ties instead of just shoving everything in. Since I'm using 3 RGB controllers, 1 for the Strimer cable and 2 for the Unifans and CPU cooler, I got this NZXT internal hub for $30 to plug all of them into, so all the controllers only take up 1 out of the 2 USB ports on the motherboard. After all of this, I spent $3,133 total, and I can finally say that this build is complete. I would have never imagined I'd be able to build something I love looking at so much. I'm really digging the white and light blue color scheme, so much in fact that I changed my bedroom setup to match it. Now time to shove it under my desk so I can barely see it. For the past 4 months, I've been using this thing up and pushing its limits with 3D development and enjoying some of my favorite games. Running all of them at the highest settings on my 34-inch ultra-wide, which is 3440 by 1440 at 165 Hz. Michael, what are you doing? Are you No. Are you Bro, no. You don't need it. You don't need it. Man, I'm so impulsive. Well, I hope you enjoyed the build and it gives you some inspiration for your own PC build. Recently, I've been playing a lot of Hogwarts Legacy, like a lot. This game is amazing.
I'm ready to learn how to use the knapsack. Perfect! Deke loves an outing.
I'm going to try to start streaming more soon on Twitch, so go follow me at MJJTech. I'm looking forward to getting to know all of you there, and thank you all so much for 1,000 subscribers. See ya.